Okay, so as we were saying, uh, we got multiple modifiers, or a word can have multiple modifiers, just like this verb has 1, 2, 3, and 4 modifiers. Let's continue right here. Modifiers can be of two types, as you probably saw in the document. Modifiers can be either complements or adjuncts, as you saw. So we say that complements are modifiers that are obligatory in the sentence. When you analyze a sentence, there are some elements that you cannot delete, that you cannot erase from the sentence in order for the sentence to be grammatical. If you eliminate those elements, then the sentence becomes ungrammatical. Adjuncts, on the other side, are elements that are optional. They are optional modifiers. That means that you can take them away from a sentence and nothing will happen. From when we analyze complements and adjuncts, we are analyzing the sentence itself. We're not going to pay attention to external contextual information. That's not what we're going to pay attention to. We're going to pay attention to the sentence itself, only the sentence itself. So, for example, I'll show you with a few examples, and I think these ones were in the copy too, so they're going to be easy to follow. All right, so in the case of these sentences, my mother bought a present for Jeannie in January last Tuesday. We're going to take the same sentence from before. The element, if we analyze it from here, if we analyze this sentence from this section, only from the verb onward, the only element right here that is a complement, that is obligatory, would be a present. If you eliminate a present, then you would lose grammatical correctness. Basically, the sentence is not going to make sense if you eliminate a present in the case of this sentence. Let me try to do that. I guess I have to do it like this. So if you eliminate a present, what do we have left? My mother bought for Jeannie in January last Tuesday. That feels very much incomplete, like there is something missing from the sentence. And in this case, what is missing would be the complement. So we say again that in the case of this sentence, a present is a complement. In that case, for Jeannie in January and last Tuesday, they would be adjuncts, because if we eliminate any of these elements from the sentence remains grammatical. It remains understandable. I can still say my mother bought a present and that's it. Or I can say my mother bought a present for Jeannie and that's it. It would be grammatical. Or I can say my mother bought a present in Jenner's last Tuesday and it would be grammatical. And if I say my mother bought a present last Tuesday, it would still be a grammatical sentence. That means that this element, and this element are adjuncts. They are optional elements, but not obligatory elements. All right, in the second one, the boy jumped onto the table in the afternoon. So in this case, I'm going to analyze the preposition onto. If I analyze the preposition onto, the element, the table, becomes obligatory, right? And let's try to eliminate this element, the table. If I eliminate the table, what do I have left? The boy jumped onto in the afternoon. That's not grammatical. That sentence is impossible to be understood. That means that this element, this onto, needs the table. So the table will be a complement for onto in this case. Now, if we take the same information, and we analyze the verb jumped, in that case, it is this that becomes the complement, the entire section. Because if we eliminate it, we're going to have a problem. We're going to run into a problem, which is that we are losing the directional section. Normally, the elements that give us the meaning of movement are necessary in a sentence. That's about complements and adjuncts. So let's see some of that in other examples. So we say this section is in the copy. The occurrence of directional phrases is closely connected with the meanings of verbs. Verbs expressing movement allow or require them. So directional phrases, phrases that tell me the information of direction are, however, treated as complements. So phrases that include these prepositions like onto, into, or to, which express movement, normally are taken as complements inside a sentence. That's why in the previous sentence, when I say the boy jumped onto the table in the afternoon, onto the table, we take it as a complement, as something we cannot move from the sentence, because it would lose sense. It would lose grammatical correctness. In the case of this sentence, at least. All right. Another thing that we can notice is that complements of the verb tend to occur mostly next to it. So in the example, in the four examples, Maisie drove her car from Morningside to Lee on Wednesday. We can see that Maisie and her car are complements. We need those elements in order for the sentence to be grammatical. Because if we take them away, if I take away Maisie, then I have drove her car from Morningside to Lee on Wednesday. And remember, we are not taking into account contextual information. This is not an answer to a question. This is a statement as we see it. And as a statement, it would not make sense if I eliminate the subject. Again, if I eliminate the car in this case, I would also have an ungrammatical sentence. Maisie drove from Morningside to Lee on Wednesday. In this case, the car is an obligatory element because it is something that the verb demands. So, as you can see from the other variations of the that was from Morningside. Sorry. So for Morningside, this one will be an adjunct, and to Lee, it will be another adjunct, and on Wednesday that will be another adjunct, right? As you see in the other sentences that are here, this one on Wednesday, Macy drove her car from Morningside to Lee. This one feels right. Macy drove her car on Wednesday from Morningside to Lee. This one also feels right. As you can see, because the complements of the verb tend to occur mostly next to to the verb, to it, to the verb. In this case, as you can see, in these two sentences, Macy and her car, which are complements, they occur next to the verb drove. You see, Macy and her car. But in this last one, which I separated, her car, as you can see, it feels very much weird. On Wednesday, Macy drove from Morningside to leave her car. That one is very strange. It feels very much ungrammatical. Like it's not the right choice. It's not the right grammatical construction. And that's because the complements of the verb normally are around the verb. In this case, the subject and the objects of the verb, the direct objects of the verb, are normally around the verb. Okay, moving on. All right. Now we get to the concept of a clause. The clause is basically what you traditionally know as a sentence. Here is where the elements are going to be a little bit confusing, just a little bit, and we need to decompose these elements because in syntax, we're going to use basically three elements. We are going to use the element of phrase and the element of sentence. It is a little bit difficult to give an exact definition for what a sentence is, and that's why linguists came up with the concept of clause. The concept of clause is going to allow us to understand the concept of the sentence. So we can say for the moment, clauses are units that allow us to talk about the relationship between verbs and types of phrases. The clause emerges partly from the struggle to arrive at a definition of sentence and the necessity to look for a unit in between phrases and sentences. So let me show that with an example too. So I'm going to give you some time to read this and maybe take a note or a screenshot. All right, so for this one, okay, here. So a clause is at the minimum a verb and its complements, and optionally its adjuncts. That's a very abstract definition. So let me show you with an actual example. All right, so with an actual example, we should have something like this. So as I told you, in syntax, we have three basic elements. We have the phrase, we have the clause, and we have the sentence. We would say that the phrase is the smallest element in syntax. Not the word, the phrase. And again, this one is going to be clearer when we start to recognize phrases. And I give a little bit more of an in-depth explanation of what a phrase is. But a phrase is basically a head with its modifiers. A clause is a verb. It's a verb. At least one main verb, you can say, with its complements. And a sentence can consist. It can consist of one or more clauses. For example, if I say something like this, so this will be phrases. These will be phrases. The dog or the cat. Another phrase will be sleep on the floor or sleep on the couch. These would be phrases. Phrases. As you see, they are not complete sentences. They are elements that can build a sentence. Now, clauses can be this. Clauses can be the dog sleeps in this case, on the floor. Another clause can be the cat sleeps on the bed. So these ones are clauses. And as you can see, these two clauses, they have only one main verb. Clauses are supposed to have only one main verb. Here is where we have the distinction between a clause and a sentence. A sentence can be this. Remember, individually, these two things individually are clauses. Individually, only one verb with the complements. In this case, the dog and on the floor, and the cat and on the bed are the complement of sleeps in these two clauses. But if I say the dog sleeps on the floor and the cat, say, sleeps, let's change the verb so it can be a little bit clearer. Let's say lies on the bed. By the way, it doesn't matter if I repeat sleeps here and sleeps here. It is still two main verbs because they have two different sections and two different complements. But this would be a sentence. This will be a sentence. It is a grammatical construction that can be one or more clauses. In this case, this sentence is made out of two clauses. So this one is one sentence, you see? So we begin with the phrase, which is an element that can build a sentence. And as you can see, it is just one head with a modifier, one head with a modifier, one head with a modifier, and one head with a modifier. They can have more modifiers, but that's not the thing for the moment. A clause is what you would consider a simple sentence. So a clause is what you would consider a simple sentence. But a sentence can be more than one clause. So for example, this can be considered a sentence or a clause. This can also be considered a sentence or a clause. But this cannot be considered a clause. This cannot be considered a clause. This is only one sentence that is made out of more than one clause. In this case, two clauses. And this can be simple sentences or one single clause. All right, on this section, do we have questions? It's important that you understand this. So if you have doubts, if this is not clear at all for you, please ask the question. I'll try to look for some other examples. But if it is good enough, if it is understandable, we can move on. All right, so it's clear? All right, so far so good. So let's move on. So let's move on to an example of complements and adjuncts. In this case, normally, when we analyze a clause, the head of the entire clause is going to be the verb. In this case, my mom let our dog eat treats in the afternoon. We can say that the head of the entire sentence is going to be let, because this is the main verb. So what are going to be the complements of this verb? We're going to begin from here. The subject of the verb is always a complement, so that is not even a question. But what from these elements right here are complements? So first of all, let's identify the sections. So we can say that our dog is one of those sections or phrases. Eat treats is another one of those sections, and in the afternoon is another one of those sections. So I want you to tell me there in the comments, what do you think about our dog? Do you think that this element is totally necessary to have a grammatical sentence, or can we take the dog or our dog away? In other words, would you think that this is a complement or an adjunct? Remember, complements are obligatory and adjuncts are optional. Do you think that our dog, this section right here, do you think that this section is obligatory or optional? All right, complement. Okay. Yes. In this case, the dog would be, let's choose another color. The dog would be a complement, because if I erase it and I say my mom let eat treats in the afternoon, that doesn't make sense. Let what? In this case, let our dog, or let me, or let my sister, but it needs this verb right here, this verb let needs it needs a complement. It needs an object. So in this case, our dog is a complement. What about eat treats? Do you think that eat treats is obligatory, a complement, or do you think it is optional, an adjunct? All right, so we have different opinions. Let me do this, and you tell me if I take this element away from this sentence and I say my mom let our dog in the afternoon. Do you think that this would be a grammatical sentence? Think about it. If I take this away and I say, my mom let our dog in the afternoon, would you feel that this is a grammatical sentence? Okay, Mariana says no. All right, no. So this would not be a grammatical sentence if we delete eat treats. That means that eat treats in this case is another complement. This one is another complement of the verb. What about in the afternoon? If I take away in the afternoon, can I still have a grammatical sentence? My mom let our dog eat treats. Do I still have a grammatical sentence? Okay, that's correct. So since I can take away this element very easily and still have a grammatical sentence, that means that this element right here is an adjunct. Remember, the subjects are always complements, so that is not even a question. The subjects, when the subject is there, is going to be in most of the cases, it is going to be a complement. So we don't even worry about the subject because it's always a complement. But the other sections, that's what we worry about. So in this case, in recognizing complements and adjuncts, these elements, these two elements cannot be moved away. You cannot move them away without altering the grammaticalness of the sentence. You need those elements right there. So they are complement and in the afternoon are adjuncts. We can say in general terms that elements of the sentence that talk about the time or the place of an action normally are adjunct. In a general way, they're normally adjunct when we talk about the time or the place of an activity, except for the ones that imply movement. If you see a verb that implies movement, moving from one side to another, or moving an object from one side to another, in those cases, the description of the place is going to be obligatory. But in verbs like this, let our dog eat treats in the afternoon, the description of the time and sometimes the place is not necessary. In most of the cases, the description of time is not going to be a complement. All right, we're going to analyze the same sentence, but in this case, we're going to analyze it from the perspective of heads and modifiers. This is from complement and adjuncts. Now we are going to try to recognize heads and modifiers. Again, it is the same sentence. What I want you to tell me, is which one of these elements in the sentence, which elements are heads. So remember that heads are members of the nouns, categories, nouns, adjectives, sorry for the mess, adjectives, adverbs, verbs, and prepositions. These are members of the categories that are normally heads. So, based on this, please tell me which elements of the sentence would be heads. From left to right. Okay, let, that's a head, yes. That's a head. Mom, that's a head. Okay, in this case, only mom or mom. Dog, that's another head. Eat, that's another head. Treats, that's another head. Santiago says in, the preposition. Yes. That's another head. What else? Afternoon. Yes. That's another head. So let's analyze one by one these heads and their modifiers. Let me erase this for the moment because it looks horrible. You already know which ones are heads and modifiers, which ones are heads, so I don't need this right here. It looks so horrible. So let's go step by step. Let's go step by step from left to right. We're going to begin with mom. Which elements do you think are modifiers of mom? Or what word in this case is given information, and I mean grammatical information about mom? Okay, Sharon and Christian, you have one thing right. My. This one is given information about mom. Let doesn't really give information about mom. It's the contrary. The contrary. My mom is going to give information about let because it's giving you the subject of the verb. All right. So in this case, if we analyze the head mom, the modifier will be my. So let me write that. Let me write that down there for the moment. So mom, modifier, my. I'm doing this because you're going to have to do this later too. All right, so mom, modifier, my. All right. Okay, you got some right answers, but let's go slowly. Now let's analyze other heads. In this case, let's analyze, come on. Let's analyze let. Let's analyze let. What do you think are the elements that give information about let? Specific information about the verb let. Okay, our dog, that's correct. So these two things are dog, given information about let. What else? My mom, yes, that's correct. Given information about let. What else? Let what? So we already said let our dog. Let our dog what? Only eat? So I'm almost giving you the answer, but yes. Eat treats. Eat treats. This is also information about let. Eat trots. All right. In the afternoon, says Christian. Yes, that's correct. In the afternoon. This is also information about let, the main verb. So these are all. Our dog eat treats in the afternoon. These are all elements of let. These are all elements of let. Because let is another head, as we saw. This is going to get really messy. So for the moment, I'm going to delete some of these things, and I'm going to summarize it later. So let's summarize it the way I did before. And let me write this one too. So I can say that the verb let has the following elements. Well, obviously my mom, but remember that my mom, since it is the subject, it is obviously a complement. But we can also say our dog, he treats, and in the afternoon. These are modifiers of let. Let's move on. Okay, we already said that this is a head. Let's go with a different color. Let's go with purple. You told me that dog is also a head. So tell me, what are the words in this sentence that are given information about dog, that are complementing or specifying dog? Our. Yes. So very simply, we can say that our is given information about dog. Nothing else, just our. In this case, just our. So let me go back. So dog, modifier, our. Okay, I should have erased this for the moment. All right, let's continue there. Another head would be treats, right? This would be another head. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm jumping too fast. Eat. This will be another head. So, what is given information about eat? All right, the dog. Not really the dog, because the dog, remember, is information about let. The dog is information about let. Treats. Yes. Treats gives information about eat. Again, not really the dog, because the dog is information about let. Our dog is the object of let. So not quite. All right, so let's go back, maintain this. So eats, complement, in modifiers, treats. I'm going to do this in 2 columns. I screw it up. They eat treats. More for the moment. All right. What else? We can move on to treats. We can move on to in. In is another head. What are the words that are given information about in? The afternoon, right? That is correct. The afternoon gives information about it. So pay attention to this. Every time you see a preposition, the preposition is going to be the head of the object that is next to it. So for example, in the afternoon, on the table, at lunch, in the morning, let's say beside the TV, behind the boxes. You see, prepositions normally have an object next to them. And prepositions are going to be almost always the heads of those objects. All right. Let's discard this. So in, the modifiers of in would be the afternoon. And we are still missing one head. That head would be afternoon. So what word is given information about afternoon? In the, no. Choose one of those. The, that's it. This is going to give information about afternoon. So, afternoon, modifier, the. So this is basically the analysis that we have for this sentence in terms of heads and modifiers. If we do it all at the same time, we're going to have kind of a mess, but let's try to do it. So my is going to give information about mom. Let's take another color. Mom is going to give information about left. Our dog gives information about left. Eat treats gives information about left. And in the afternoon gives information about left. Horrible, I know. Hour gives information about dog. And another one. Treats. Treats, yes. Treats gives information about eat. The afternoon gives information about in. And the gives information about afternoon. So this is the analysis of heads and modifiers. Bueno, para que quede un poquito más claro, notemos varias cosas. Primero que todo, la relación entre cabezas y modificadores, como pueden ver ahí, no es simbiótica, digámoslo así. No puede ser, por ejemplo, que mom es modificador de let y al mismo tiempo let modificador de mom. ¿Sí ven? Eso es imposible. Si una sección es modificadora de otra palabra, esa otra palabra no puede ser modificadora al mismo tiempo de esa sección. Es un solo camino. Al mismo tiempo, por ejemplo, si analizamos my mom, my es un modificador de mom, pero mom no es un modificador de my. Vámonos a afternoon, o in the afternoon. The afternoon es un modificador de in. Por esa misma razón, in no puede ser un modificador de afternoon. ¿Sí ven? No va en las dos direcciones, va en una sola dirección. En este caso, esta sección entera, the afternoon, es la que da información sobre in. Pero in no puede dar información sobre afternoon. Es el contrario. Ahora, el elemento entero in the afternoon, ese es el que está dando información sobre let. ¿Sí? So, as you can see, in syntax, what we analyze is how the sentence have these different elements inside. The elements of the sentence are not individual words. As you can see, the elements of the sentence are phrases. They are words that work as units. Those units are the ones that make the sentence, but not individual words. Not individual words. Sentences have a structure that is made out of different individual elements, and those elements also have an internal structure in terms of heads and modifiers. So we can say that mom has my as a modifier, let has all of these other elements as modifiers, dog has all of this, well, has this element as a modifier, eat has this element as modifier, the afternoon is a modifier of in, and afternoon has as a modifier the. Otra cosa que pueden notar es que algunas palabras que son cabezas, por ejemplo, dog, esto entero, our dog eat treats in the afternoon. Ustedes, como pueden notar, eso también contiene cabezas. Esta es una cabeza, esta es una cabeza, esta es una cabeza. Y esta es otra cabeza. Ah, bueno, de hecho, esa es otra cosa que se me olvidó notar. Treats es una cabeza, ¿cierto? Pero no tiene ningún modificador. Sorry about that. It doesn't have any modifiers. Entonces, eso también es posible. Pero como les, bueno, el punto en el que estaba anteriormente era que no solamente las categorías así gramaticales como our o the, en estos casos, esas no son las únicas palabras que pueden ser modificadores. Como pueden ver, hay otras secciones enteras que tienen cabezas que al mismo tiempo son modificadores de otras cabezas. En este caso, por ejemplo, our dog, eat treats, in the afternoon, todos son modificadores de la cabeza let. Como pueden notar también, en una cláusula, en una clause, en una oración, el verbo principal normalmente es la cabeza de la oración entera. ¿Sí? Now, the element, the book, the chapter from the book has some exercises. I want you to begin on those exercises. These ones don't have a grade. This is just for practice. But what I want you to do is work on exercise one, and exercise 2, I'm going to add a modification. So let me show you the modification that I added. Where is it? I guess. I added some modifications to this exercise. So again, I want you to do exercise 1 and exercise 2 as I show here in the slide. Don't do it with these sentences right here. I modify them a little bit slightly so it can be a little bit more easier to digest. So in exercise number 1, what you have to do is find the complements and adjuncts of the verbs. So in this case of agreed, delivered, all right? So in this case, you have to do that. Find the complements and adjuncts of this verbs in the sentences. It says consider the modifiers of the verbs in the following sentences. So for the purposes of this exercise, exclude the grammatical subjects. So don't take into account the subjects because normally the subjects are always complements, so it's not necessary to take them into account. Take into account what is after the verb. And in number 2, in exercise number 2, what I want you to do is the same thing that we did here. I want you to identify the heads. I want you to identify the heads and the modifiers of the heads, but in these sentences that I wrote right here. Okay, we're going to do this as practice of heads and modifiers. All right. Any questions till this moment? Actually, this should be the opposite. Should be here, this should be here. Number 2, number 1, and number 2. All right, so that's the exercise. I'm going to start recording for the moment.